This is the ledger. And this is the register of all the people that we were joining. And the number of they're down along. And Liam Kelly is number 1. And Brendan Graney is dead, the Lord mercy on him, and Joe Fye, and those were all Paddy Coolhan, those were all founder members. And Patrick Boland, John Coffey. A meeting was held in the Cree School on the 3rd of February 1967 for the purpose of forming a study group to investigate the methods of running a credit union.
Oh, it was very new here. It was very new.
It was very new.
Yeah. So people didn't know what the credit union was.
No.
We had to make our own little office, set up the counter and our little biscuit tin for our money.
A neighbour of ours called one day on his way home from work, and he talked about this new organisation in the town, and they're collecting money, he said, and you can actually borrow from them.
And I was told that the credit union was a place where you saved a few bob, and when you had a few bob saved, you could go in and get a loan.
And Mammy was laughing. She says, well, did you ever hear anything better than that now, she said. That there were people in there in Ballinasloe, ordinary people, she says, lending money out to others.
Well, I think it was great for the town. I kept the money in the town. Just for the small saver. It was all right that time, the bank, go down to the bank, but you wouldn't get a loan in the bank that time for 20 or 25 quid. No way. They wouldn't even get it now ever, I suppose.
Now that was very appealing to some people who definitely wouldn't get a loan from the banks.
At that time, the ordinary working man didn't go near a bank.
No.
You know? You'd be afraid to go near them. You were intimidated anyway.
I wouldn't certainly at the time have had a bank account.
No.
I mean, the wages were very small.
Don't ever remember going near a bank.
Money lenders were around then.
I suppose they were in poverty. And Ireland was in poverty, and the hire purchase companies were making a fortune. They used to call it that time the Never Never.
They were what they called the credit drapers.
Yes.
They used to call them Jewmen in town.
That's right, the Jewmen is right, yeah.
We formed a study group, and we decided that we'd go ahead and try and form a credit union for the parish.
Well, I remember when I joined, we were below one Sunday morning at a union meeting. We used to hold them there that time. I was working in the quarry. And these 7 or 8 lads were standing over one side. And I was inquisitive. And I went over and asked them how they're doing. Because I knew they weren't our members. So they explained to me that it was a credit union. And he says, if you join, he says, you'll never have to join again. And I said, how much is it? He said, it's £50,000. I said, I'll join it, all right. So there's a good few joined that day, out of the quarry where I was working.
So we were so delighted to be able to save £50, and you went along and you got a loan for maybe £150, having your 50 saved. And £150 to a housewife in the 80s was a lot of money. You could do a lot in your kitchen for £150 that time.
We borrowed the price of a washing machine, I remember. I think it was £80 at the time. It was a fair bit of money, and the repayments would be something like £1 a week, maybe, plus the interest in that. That's the first thing that I remember ever buying as a result of borrowing money from the credit union.
And people got it for a bit of furniture, or in my case, the pram and the cot.
Well, it was a big change to have a decent one anyway, because we had this old thing with the mangle on top of it that you twisted the handle.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a mighty step forward to have it wasn't even an automatic, I thought it was what they call a twin tub.
Twin tub, yes.
Which was state of the art at the time, though.
Yeah.
£51. It was for a pram and a cot, and that was for my first lad. Well, I've only one lad, Aidan, and he'll be 49 this December, the 19th of December. So, and I know I had to be in it before that.
You could go with the money in your fist and cheekily ask for a discount for cash from Hubert Dolan or John Fletcher.
Yes.
Give you great kind of independence, really.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was elected secretary, and Jim Rillins was elected chairman. I was directed to write away for the credit union booklet to see how you start credit unions and the meaning of the credit union and all that type of thing.
It's a community-based financial institution. That's what it is.
I don't know, did we collect the pound or did I put the pound in at the time to get the tin booklets? It were 10 pence a piece at a particular time.
I think it was Mikey Gavin that introduced me to it. That would be a brother-in-law of mine. His brother now would have been involved with Gus on the loan committee, you know. And I think I got involved through Mikey really. And we used to go up to the Emerald Ballroom every Sunday morning, and you do your business and you go down into Mrs. Gullan for a few pints, you know. That was the way.
You got the loan.
No, without the loan.
Oh,
I had planned for that anyway.
Yeah.
I worked with Pat Boland in the post office. Pat was the first treasurer of the Credit Union Ballinasoe from out in Bay, and I worked with him. My first job in a credit union Pat got me to do, of course, which was to send out letters to people who owed us money and weren't paying it back.
I know 2 clients anyway that went down one night and they applied for it and they got £25 a piece. I went up to the Mount, Dan Scanlon, and tapped the checks up in the counter. I changed that and said, there, we'll drink it. And so they did. 25. I don't know if they ever paid back. I wouldn't think so.
God, that was a lot of money that time.
Oh, there would be some money. I think they were a couple of days drinking.
Oh, you can be sure of it.
Aye.
Delinquent letters they were called. So every Monday night I would go down to the rooms in the Emerald Ballroom and go through the accounts to see who hadn't paid the previous week and send them out a little reminder. A yellow one if you were only missing for a week, and a blue one if you're missing for 2 weeks. But if you're missing for 3 weeks, you got the red letter. And that was serious stuff.
Well, we didn't refuse their one any time I was on the committee anyway. So we always get them a few bob, you know.
Was there ever a problem with delinquent loans?
Not at all.
Was there ever a problem with delinquent loans?
Well, there was, of course. There was. The more money you give out in the credit union parlance, the more delinquent loans you'll have. that was established in the early days.
A fella put me up one night, one evening, on a Saturday evening in town. He said, "Hey, come here." He said, "What kind of a thing are you running up there in the boys' club?"
Most people may pay you most weeks. Some people cannot pay you occasionally. So as a consequence, they might need a gentle reminder. That's all they were, gentle reminders, you know.
Well, he said, "My young fella went up there and he was refused a loan." He said, "That's no way to be running thing."
We wrote to them and people visited their houses. That time you could visit a person's house without getting a poke in the mouth, you know, but it became a dangerous thing to do later on in life when the credit union was thriving. The insurance wouldn't cover you see, if your work could be assaulted.
So when he was finished, I said, "You know what you'll do now?" I said, "AGM is next Monday night. Come down to the Emerald Ballroom," I said, "and I'll propose you for the credit committee."
Yes.
Oh no, I said, "No, I need all to do it like that." That was the last we heard of his complaints.
It wasn't an enormous business at the time, but by the same token, it was members' money that we'd given out. We were obliged to get it back if we could at all. In most cases, it was returned to us with the interest that was due on it.
It was kind of a personal when it was smaller.
Well, you were too well known, everybody knew you.
You were well known, you see, and so you would be accosted on the street.
Oh, you would, of course.
We used to have a meeting pre-school, and we used to get permission from the priest to hold meetings there. But he charges 5 shillings a night, and we had no money.
Some people used to call the credit union the poor man's bank, but I would call it the women's bank.
The wives of the town, you know, they would actually deal with the money. I think your wages, Bernie, maybe.
Correct, Mary.
Yes.
Because women that time didn't go to the bank. It was the men that time that did all the transactions, all the financial transactions. So it was great to be recognised and your own. Even if it was only, you wouldn't be working, you might have just the children's allowance. So that was your savings, and somebody recognised you as yourself, and you could borrow money in your own name, which was wonderful.
Well, it was slow, but I'd say 4 or 5 years it took that, or maybe 6 years, to be set in the people's minds that it was a good organisation and that it wasn't a crowd from Crea, which was said at the time. It was a crowd from Crea, a bunch from Crea trying to make a name for themselves.
The idea of the credit union is to support people in need. There was a great need for credit in this town and in many towns around Ireland, which is why credit unions were so successful, because the ordinary bloke in the street could not borrow anywhere. And more importantly, his wife, who was not a working wife in the 1960s or in the 1970s, invariably it was the wife who did most of the borrowing from credit unions.
Well, it was Christmas and back to school.
The communion and the confirmation.
And of course, there was the television and the washing machine.
And the turf.
We're here because the women of Ireland, the women of Ballinasloe supported the one of Ballinasloe, and the women of Ireland supported the credit unions all over Ireland. It's the females who are the finance ministers in any house. Anybody who tells you otherwise is dreaming. He hasn't woken up to the fact yet. It's the ladies who hold the purse strings, and rightly so, because they know how to manage a budget. Lads know nothing about it.
River Street.
Yeah, that was a great time.
What was great about that?
Well, we thought, how would we pay for it? There's a lot of money, like.
It was getting too big for the volunteer to hold on to it, like, you know.
But they said, well, we'll pay for it. And so they did. And they improved everything since.
Well, yes, it was a victim of its own success. All that you have to do is to look at the figures, like, from £1 in 1967 to today's date, 100 million in shares.
It was very busy. We had big schemes that time from 80 Cross and Square D and Portiuncula Hospital and St. Bridget's. And we had pay deduction schemes from all of those.
Yeah, I went up every Thursday for a good few years to 80 Cross. And I think it was a Friday I went up to Square D.
They all took on board that they had to do extra work as well to do that. And they had to come down with the money and come down with the list and whatnot.
It was a huge check. It was a lot of money.
But that was great for the credit union in Ballinasloe, because when they came with their cheque, we could lend that out to other people. And if they didn't come in with the savings, we couldn't be lending it out.
And I totted together 15 years lending out of this credit union, and it came to in excess of €300 million. 300 million. 300 million euro was given out by the credit union over 15 years.
We have a huge credit union now.
And you'd have to ask yourself, what would the place be like without it?
I'm a member here for years and years. I don't know how long ago. I remember, the only thing I remember is that I started in the Workman's Club at the back of the old town hall on a biller tape, and my number on my book is 312. I started off with £1 a week. Well, you stop by taking loans out, umpteen loans. I have a loan at the present moment and I still owe the money. All my life I owe the money, and I'm still here. And I've never been refused in my lifetime, never.
The first thing I took around a house for a scooter, a Henkel scooter.
Well, my name is Abayemi Akidansi. I'm originally from London. I've been in Ballinasloe for the last 25 years. I have a family of 3, married to Angela Carrick, who hails from Ballinasloe, and I've been a member of the Ballinasloe Credit Union for as long as probably nearly 20 odd years.
I got the first loan to get my turf coat in Pullby. Like, what is that? At that time, like, it was very hard to have money, you know, the scarce.
For education of my children all over the years, so my children was able to go to college.
It's helped me as regards financing my family, you know, taking my kids to college scholarship, even financing holidays, a lot.
It's very much important that I'm called a member, yes it is, yeah. Because it's like that, you know, you're given part of the area to Ballinasloe, you know what I mean, that you're contributing.
50 years old, I'm just talking to one of the colleagues there, I'm actually 50 myself. That is just a number, and the more years it comes, and it's a great achievement over the last 50 years. They've done a lot.
I hope it's here for thousands of years, not 50 years' time, thousands, because it's a great asset to the community and to everybody, you know.
Everyone should be in the credit union. Everyone.
We're in the Kerr grounds and we're watching an under-12 Premier League game. Ballinasloe Town AFC have been here since 1951 in the town. We provide football for over 120 kids all through the season, and they're quite successful. And they're successful because of businesses in town getting behind the club, and the credit union have been a huge part of our success in sponsorship down through the years.
If there's a local committee and they ask us for support, invariably we give it. But the membership of the credit union allowed the board to set up a social fund, and we put £25,000 into it. That was 25 years ago, and we boosted it up to 50,000, and we kept 50 in it for a good few years, and we've used that sum of money to enhance any requirement that there is by way of social infrastructure in town.
And at the moment we have a playground just about to be open. We're after getting a wonderful donation from the credit union, from the social fund. We had planned on putting in a wheelchair swing, but we were 10,000 short. The parish in Moore granted us 5,000, and when it was put to the Ballinasloe Credit Union that we were short 5,000, we were absolutely wonderful and came on board and said, OK, we'll finance the second half of the wheelchair swing. And there are children in wheelchairs, and they're entitled to get up on a swing the same as the kids that are not in wheelchairs.
Most people enjoy sport: soccer, rugby, Gaelic, hurling or football, whatever it might be. Anything that has asked us for funds in the recent past, they've been well looked after. We believe that's what the fund is for. Credit union is about community.
A mehel was the one, well, probably still it's an Irish word, and it means when a lot of people get together to help each other out.
Well, sure, anybody who comes from of an Irish background, a country Irish background, will know what the mehel implies.
The mehel was where all the people came together to give one another a hand.
Without the initial gathering of the group of people in Crea to put the credit union together, nothing would have happened. But it only takes a few. If you're waiting around for everybody to become involved, then waiting you'll be. Somebody has to light the fire. And that's what a small mehel did for the credit union 50 years ago now.
What amazes me was the trust that was put in the people who started it. Who do they think they are? You know, they're asking us to bring in money and to save money. You know, would you do it today? And that trust is still there.
I have been a member of the board for 50 years. And but I'll be resigning this year now. I have enough of it done.
I mean, I got to know people abroad in Korea. Gus Hines. I knew he was fairly high up in the mental hospital, and I remember going over to an open day over there afterwards, and he brought us through under the clock there. But he brought us in through all of where the padded cells were and all that kind of thing, you know. He might have been more than us.
But we're a £100 million credit union after 50 years. I'm sure when the lads in Korea were talking about it the first day, they didn't think we'd get anything like this.
I've relied on it all over the years. I go down and I get a few bob every year for those loads of turf or getting the turf coat, or I don't look for anything too big because they mightn't give it to you, and it might be very hard to get it back off me.
Noel Madden, we appointed Noel as manager, and Noel is retiring this year, and I said I'd go with him.
And yet it's a fine, strong, sizable credit union now, and it's doing wonderful work for its members. And this is only the first 50 years. There's plenty more 50s to come, as far as I can see anyway, you know.
This opportunity cannot be let pass.
Without expressing my sincere thanks
to all the members of the study group
who gave of their valuable time to come and attend meetings,
to organise and to start the credit union.
I believe,
and I know that all of the study group do as well,
that the work that we start here tonight
will be a great benefit
and a valuable asset to the community we live in.
I hope and pray
that we will all survive
to see a strong and
healthy union develop from the seed
to the sown here tonight.
And I do believe it all happened.
Oh yeah. Everything he prayed for there, I think, came to pass and more.
I think we surpassed it.
Well, it did.
Oh, it did.
So look at the members we have now compared to that time.
And we are the product of that seed after 50 years.
It's unbelievable that any organisation could start with £1 and end up with 100 million.